everybody. So today we have a very long video, very long. We're going to go over patch preview part 1, patch preview part 2, as well as, oh boy, a very large list of changes that are happening in the next patch. At this point, I'm going to have to start charging rent, because Red Function is always on my mind. What we're going to do here is we're going to go over the justifications for the changes, then the changes themselves, and then, give my opinion, stuff like that. On all of that. If you guys want to listen, you can listen. If you want to use me as a podcast, you can use me as a podcast. Put me on your second monitor or, just listen along, watch your phone, do whatever. It doesn't really matter. As always, the amount of time that you guys spend watching these videos has been going up as I consistently tell you guys that you don't have to physically sit with your eyes glued to the video itself. I kid you not, we are now going over 20 minutes average view time. Apparently many of you were still, to this day, sitting, staring at my videos, getting bored after like 20 to 30 minutes, and leaving, thereby reducing the average view timer. You don't, I assure you, you don't need to do that. You can just use this as a podcast. So what do we got here? They have 3 projects they've been working on for quite some time. Cosante, now I have gone over the Cosante changes. There are a lot of Cosante changes to go over. If you want to watch my video on that, go watch my video on that. It doesn't really do me any good to go over it twice. So if you want to see my take on the Cosante changes, they're very long. And overall, I think they're very bad. Overall, I think they're bad. There are obviously some good things in there, but I think overall, they are not good. Jungle changes. Some nerfs to jungle strength across a variety of axes. Attempting to focus on things jungles don't care about as much to reduce impact of fun of the role. So basically, he doesn't want jungle to be that much less fun, but he does need it to be that much less powerful. So what are they doing here? If we zoom in here, oh boy. So the general idea is Smite is being nerfed. It won't do as much champion damage. The jungle avatar upgrades are being nerfed. Jungle health growth is being buffed, so jungle will be healthier as the game goes on. The scuttle crab is going to have more health into the late game, but it will also give slightly more rewards. Jungler healing and mana regeneration is going down a little bit. Anti-poaching, that means like how tanky is the jungle camp? It's going to be way tankier, meaning other lanes can't steal the jungle as much. I'm a little bit worried about this one because, see, here's the problem, right? Top laners, I know I went over this in my big video. Most top laners have some way to steal jungle camps and be good at it. And the problem here is by making the jungle even more tanky to stop people from poaching it, you're stopping top laners from being able to augment their gold with jungle gold. Top lane continues to this day to be the weakest lane. And the problem here is that every time you make it harder to steal the jungle, what you're doing is you're going to top lane and you're saying, okay, you're going to get 300 less gold over this game, which is like, sure, that doesn't seem like a lot until you realize that, well, I mean, that basically amounts to a kill less gold each game, because now the jungle is going to have 42 armor and magic resist instead of 20, so you won't be able to take it as easily, and you definitely won't be able to take it as often. So all I'm saying here, right, is do consider the impact of these changes to top lane. As you guys continuously do these changes to try to help out top lane, you're also doing changes that are hurting top lane. The minion XP penalty is going to be changed, I guess. The comeback XP is going to be changed. Basically, from what I understand, junglers will get more minion XP penalty earlier on, and comeback XP for the jungle will be, you'll need to be further behind. You won't need to be just 1.1 level behind, you'll need to be 1.5 levels behind. So the strategy of get level 3, get level 4, permagank for 5 minutes, then just catch up XP back up to 6. So that you only end up 6 to their 7, that strategy will be less powerful. In addition, the strategy of just staying like 1.5 levels behind the laners and then just always getting catch-up XP, because you have to remember, even though this is 1.5 levels down, it means you only get catch-up XP until you're 1.5 levels down. Do you get that? So that means if I'm level 3 and the average level is level 4, well, I can hit that threshold for 1.1. So I do some camps, right? And then boom, I'm level 4. But in this situation, if I'm level 3 and the average level is level 4, then oops, now I don't get that catch-up XP. It also means if I'm level 4 and the average level is 6, I only get catch-up XP up to level 5 instead of being able to get catch-up XP back up all the way. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? If I'm not making it too clear, which I don't think I am, it basically is going to nerf the jungler's XP. So jungle will still have the most gold of any lane, but now they will have a good bit less XP. Doran's and support stunning items. Doran's items are being buffed. I don't know why they're listing that here. I'll go over that later, probably. But Doran's items are being buffed. Support items are being buffed because junglers can't start with them. And I think the idea here is that then this will just make laners slightly more powerful in relation to junglers. The only problem I have with this one, when I'm looking at it, is that it does seem like they're buffing Doran's blade a bit more aggressively than the other items. Doran's shield is getting 30 HP instead of 20, and its regen is going up, but Doran's blade is getting 2 more damage. 2 more damage is a lot. Going up 3 AP is also a lot. It does feel here that Doran's shield is kind of getting the bad thing here, because 5 more health regen is not equal to 2 more damage, in my opinion. Because, like, what's the right way to put it? It just doesn't feel. I think this might be a bit of an issue, especially the champions that can go Doran's blade into matchups that they're already doing good on. You have to remember, if you're in matchups where you're not going to do good on, or it's a matchup where it's even, you often want to go Doran's shield. So the problem is Doran's blade being buffed helps out champions like Quinn, Akshan, Kennen, champions who already are just dominating the laning phase, right? It doesn't really help out champions who are already losing. In fact, it hurts champions who are losing. So I just have a little bit of a this is just me going on a bit of a tangent here. I just have a little bit of an issue here. In addition, they're nerfing water walking. Water walking is this is something that junglers have been using for a very long time to be able to cruise over the river, to be able to escape from people or to gank into people much easier. And by nerfing water walking's movement speed and giving it more adaptive force in the early game, this means that junglers will fight better in the river by a little bit, but they won't have this giga movement speed that allows them to go. I mean, how many times have we seen Nunu just like top lane, mid lane, bot lane, mid lane, top lane, right? Like, okay. So, our 12.14 changes to Dragons to Sustain have been optimized over time to increase snowballing, mainly in Elite, because, and I'm not sure if I agree or disagree with them, but the general idea here was that they wanted more snowballing because going with late game champions was ideal, because basically the game didn't actually have enough snowballing, which meant that you could always go with Azir, you could always go with these late game champions like Aphelios, because if you lost early game, it really didn't matter in the end, right? Like, oh no, we have a little bit less early game. Oh no, they got some kills, even 5 kills. It's 0 to 5, right? Like, it didn't really matter, and you could just continuously go late game and outscale people, which I'm not sure I agree or disagree with that. I'm kind of in the middle on that thought process. But at the very least, it was being seen as an issue that so many people were playing for late game and not playing for the early game. At either rate, we're toning back some of that by reducing the value of early dragons while keeping the power of soul as a win condition. In fact, also include changes to runes, herald, death timers, plates. Okay, so do they have that here? Okay, here's our anti-snowballing, and there's a lot of it. Okay, so in anti-snowballing, individual dragons have been nerfed. Now, I'm not going to go over all of them, right? Obviously, Cloud, Hextech, Infernal, Mountain, and Ocean. The rewards from them have been reduced. If you want to read that, that's fine. But, you know, just as one example, for Infernal went from 5% AD and AP to 3%. Okay, so they're back to where they used to be last year, and that's overall, in my opinion, a good thing. Dragon Souls themselves have now been buffed rather considerably. Cloud Dragon went from 15 to 20% movement speed, which is a lot. All the other ones have also been buffed. It doesn't seem like they buffed Chemtech, or maybe they forgot to list it. I don't really know. Rift Herald gold has been nerfed. You lose 100 gold for taking Rift Herald. It used to be 100 for the kill, then 100 local gold. Now it's 100 for the kill and only 100. Sorry, it was 100 for the kill, 200 for the local gold. Now it's going to be 100 for the kill, 100 for the local gold. Either way, it went from 300 gold to 200 gold. Okay. Death timers are being reduced. At level 10, they even out, but level 2 to 9, you'll be dead for less time. Plate gold is also being reduced from 175 back down to 125, which is good. Oh my god. Plate gold, okay. Plate gold was one of the biggest imbalancers in this game that made it basically impossible to come back from. If you got jungle ganked like twice and dove, like, okay, so you get good jungle ganked, right? Okay, they kill you. The enemy top laner takes 2 plates. Now they're so far ahead that you can't really do anything. Now they just straight dive you, right? The opposing laner is just like they're 600-700 gold ahead of you on the first gank, right? So now they have like a warhammer and you have a longsword. So now you can't take any trades, right? You're done. So I just aggressively push you in, aggressively take every trade. Oh, here comes the jungle. They dive you. Here's 2 more plates. Maybe the whole turret is gone, right? Now you're sitting on maybe a plated steel caps and a longsword, and they have a completed gore drinker. And the thing is, that's not even exaggerating. Turret plates were obviously way over the top. The combination of reduction in death timers and the reduction in turret plates actually does matter. Some people think this doesn't matter, but over the course of an entire turret, getting 250 less gold is a lot, and it does matter. Being able to get back into the lane faster, making teleport more powerful does matter. Right now, we see it all the time that people just go ignite and spam all in and then want their jungler to go top lane, and it just kind of takes the power out of top lane and it puts it into the jungle, because now the jungle gets to determine who wins top lane, who wins the game. When people don't play safe and people don't play for CS and for good trades, but rather for just perma all-in giga aggro, it does kind of screw up the game's balance. So I woke up only like an hour ago. I take a long time. Actually, I woke up like an hour and a half ago. I would never be able to work a 9 to 5. I'm sorry for those of you who do. I just don't wake up early. I just don't. It takes me like 4 hours. Do you guys ever watch my stream when I start streaming right after I wake up? The first 3 hours, I mean, just sitting there going, that's me. That's me right now. I try to get more excited when I do these videos, but it can, you know. So then all runes have been nerfed across the board. I should say all keystones. All keystones scale less, but have more base numbers. This means that levels matter more than gold. And in addition to that, the amount of gold you have matters way less. Now, how much less? To give an example here, let's use Arcane Comet, because I know it's here. Arcane Comet is going from 30 to 100 base damage to 30 to 130. But the AP ratio is going from 20% down to 5%. What does this mean? If you're a 5-item mage with 600 AP, I know that some builds can go 7 or even 800, but let's say a 5-item mage with, I think 600 AP would be, you know, reasonable to expect at 5 items, right? That means that you're losing 15%. Wow, 15% AP. Hold on. I need to like double check on a calculator just to make sure that like I'm not. Yeah, that's 90. Oh wow. So a level 16 mage's Arcane Comet, or level 16, a level 18 mage, a 5-item mage, right? A completed build mage. They still have their boots, right? A completed build mage would go down 90 damage on Arcane Comet, but would get 30 more base damage. So they would be down 60 damage on Arcane Comet. And that's kind of across the board how this is all working, right? All runes will now scale less, which means it snowballs less. You get less damage from your items. So getting all those turret plates, getting those kills, it matters less now. It still matters a lot, obviously, it just matters less. In relation to where it matters now, it now matters less. Does everybody understand that? Okay. And this is pretty much for every rune. Electrocute, Dark Harvest, Arcane Comet, Summonary, they're all being nerfed in damage. Fleet Footwork heal is going down. The base heal is actually going up. So those champions who use Fleet Footwork without scaling it very hard, for example, Sejuani, are actually going to see a tiny bit of a buff here, which I think is interesting. Press the attack exposed damage is going down. So like the damage modifier from press the attack is going from 8 to 12 to 8%. First strike bonus damage is going from 9 to 8%. Taste of blood healing is going down. That's odd. Why taste of blood? Of all runes, why taste of blood? That's a weird one. That's not a keystone. That's just a regular rune. Okay. Conqueror adaptive is going down 10%. Lethal tempo attack speed is going down 10%. So across the board, everything is getting nerfed. You all get that? Okay. Then Baron HP is going up, so it's harder to take Baron. I think all of these are actually good changes. I think Baron was way too easy to rush. Frequently, what would happen is like a team would start doing Baron, and like you'd be like, okay guys, I know we're behind, but we gotta group up for this. And your team would be like kind of near Baron, and you'd like move up, get vision on the brush, make sure they're not cheesing you. Move up, get vision on the Baron, okay. Then someone would like move up, see what health the Baron is at, and it would be like 1,000 HP and it would instantly get smited, and you're like, oh. So like by the time you can move up as a team that was behind to like try to actually like contest the Baron, most of the time it just got rushed and you would lose the game. That would mean that a team was ahead. If a team was ahead, most of the time their best play was to just rush the Baron, because like the opposing team, unless they just ran headfirst in and then got, you know, counter engaged and died, unless they just ran headfirst in, they generally didn't have enough time to actually contest the Baron. So actually, I think this Baron HP change is really, really, really good. This rune change, I could go either way on, but I think overall, yes, it's a very good thing too. Should it be nerfed? Should it not be nerfed? I'm sure people have opinions on that, but I think overall that nerfing it is a very good idea. And in particular, I think that this makes full damage builds less required. Something that a lot of people haven't noticed in the past is that ever going for a defensive option was generally a bad idea. Does it solve this issue? No, obviously not. I think tank items overall are just way, way, way understaffed right now. We can see this with Spirit Visage, Omen, items that should be good when they even are good, generally still are underperforming, right? So I think tank items and the more adaptive items are just underperforming. Bruiser ones seem to be doing fine because Riot has overtuned them to try to force them to be viable. Because here's the problem: stacking pure damage is just extremely good right now. Now, this does alleviate some of that issue, and that's why I do like it, because stacking pure damage was just scaling way too hard, way too easily, way too quickly, right? Like, I mean, if you look at mages just with Arcane Comet, right? Getting a 20% higher AP ratio on all your poke moves is like Xerath and Ziggs and such was just like insane. Ziggs' QAP ratio actually in reality is 0.65, but was actually 0.85 once you factored in it was proccing Arcane Comet. Do you get it? And so by nerfing this, it makes snowballing less and it makes stacking pure damage less. So maybe, I'm not saying this solves the pure damage issue, but maybe we could eventually enter a world where people feel like safer going for even, you know, some of the more hybrid defensive options rather than just giga damage. Okay. For nerfs, Duskblade is mentioned why day. We think Duskblade is a little stronger than it should be compared to Eclipse and Ghostblade. I'm not sure I entirely agree with this one. I think Duskblade is obviously like a bit overpowered. How overpowered is it? Maybe not that much. I think, like, I get it. I do agree that Duskblade is like a little bit overpowered, but I don't see it really like destroying the meta. And I do think Eclipse is like a little undertuned right now, and I definitely think Ghostblade is a little undertuned right now. At other rate, Duskblade's going from 20 ability haste to 15, and then its damage modifier is going from 18% to 16. If it is going to be nerfed, I think that's fine. I think these are fine nerfs for it. I don't think lethality items should have been giving as much ability haste as bruiser items anyway. Obviously, on the video we just went over, it's good for assassins to have ability haste. I just don't think they should have as much ability haste as bruisers. Like, it should probably go, bruisers have the most ability haste, then assassins and mages, then tanks, then AD carries. Now, tanks obviously don't have enough ability haste at all right now, and that's a bit of an issue for their scaling, that tanks typically end the game at like leniently. A lot of times they'll just end at like 35 ability haste, just like they're mythic and then gargoyles, and that's it. That's the only thing they get ability haste from. Sometimes they end at 45 because they go abyssal, woo, right? But like, it's just not enough. Tanks just don't have enough ability haste. I know people complain about ability haste creep and ending the game at like 100 ability haste. And yeah, I'm sure that can be annoying to fight, but the harsh reality of the situation is that, like, what's the right way to put this? There's been so much creep into like damage over time effects. There's been so much creep into sustained damage. There's been so much creep into mobility that you kind of needed ability haste to also power creep there for bruisers. Because I know people have mentioned this in the past. Basically what happens is, with things like Essence Reaver on AD carries now, right? With things like Gale Force, with things, all this other stuff, Rage Blade, Giga Sustain damage. I mean, right now, if Kog'Maw is allowed to shoot a bruiser for like 3 seconds, they're dead from full. I don't think that's even an exaggeration, even through the Sterix gauge. And basically what needs to happen is bruisers that need to have a crap load of ability haste because they really only have 3 seconds to play in a fight. Sometimes they can heal and extend it to 4, maybe even 5 if they're lucky, right? But the reality of the situation is you need to have your cooldowns in a way that 3 to 4 seconds like needs to be your cooldowns. You need to be able to use abilities very quickly in order to team fight well, right? Riot has already mentioned that they've nerfed Bruiser team fighting pretty hard with all the stance nerfs. They've already nerfed Bruiser team fighting really hard, so now they give them ability haste so that they can function. Okay. Bel'Veth, as mentioned on August Twitter, Bel'Veth is a bit too strong early and changes our focus on that axis. Wow, Bel'Veth is too strong early? Who knew? Zoop, zoop, an easy, undodgeable knockup. Zoop, zoop, zoop. Wow, kills you from full. Undodgeable knockup. Yes, can they miss it? I would say Bel'Veth's knockup is undodgeable. You can miss it, but you can't dodge it. It comes out way too quickly. I did a video on this the other day. If you want to go back and look at it, the problem is Bel'Veth's knockup is faster, longer, and wider than most knockups in the game. It is effectively undodgeable. If you consider Kane's W to be hard to dodge, and sure, maybe some of you don't, then good news, Bel'Veth's W is faster than Kane's W knockup, longer than Kane's W knockup, much wider than Kane's W knockup, which is kind of insane. So Bel'Veth is getting some pretty hard nerfs here. Her bonus attack speed after spell cast, instead of being 25 to 50%, is now 20 to 40%. The damage reduction on her E is going from 70% to 42 to 70%. So early game Bel'Veth can no longer just run up an EU and just, you know, chunk you while healing, while also getting 0 damage back from you. The damage can now crit, which I guess opens up Kraken Slayer to be even more of a viable Bel'Veth item, even though every Bel'Veth was already going Kraken Slayer because it's a completely busted OP item. The damage is going down a little bit. Instead of 8 to 16 is now 6 to 10, but the AD ratio is going up from 6 to 8%. The on-hit damage is also going up from 6 to 8% on hit, so Kraken Slayer is even more of a required Bel'Veth item. The amount of movement speed she gets outside of combat from her ultimate is going down early game, slightly up late game, and the amount of health her little minions have is going down early game, slightly up late game. In total, Bel'Veth needs colossal, absolutely massive nerfs. That champion is just giga overtuned to hell. That champion is just massively, 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 massively overpowered right now. Her complete ease of use and the fact that her kills are effectively undodgeable means that if you actually play Bel'Veth and you spam gank on Bel'Veth, she's just a bit nutty. Now, I think people can agree that Bel'Veth might be a little bit weak a little bit weak late game, but the problem is that doesn't really matter because between Kraken Slayer and her other items, her early game, she just takes over the entire game early, uses that jungle gold, quick builds a Kraken Slayer, runs up to everyone, and then just auto-attacks them to death. And there's not much anyone can do about it. Zed's Meiji outputs are too strong right now, mainly driven by his interactions with Ravenous, but outside of Zed, I think Ravenous is in a fine spot. Reducing the strength of W max second to incentivize him moving into E max. His pattern overall is too Meiji, which is not long-term desirable. But we don't think we're able to adequately resolve it until preseason, so this is a band-aid fix for now. Okay, so here's a problem I have with Zed. I do think they should slap some compensation buffs onto him. The problem with Zed, his win rate is like 48% at like every rank. Even at the low ranks at Orange is 49%, right? Like if we go to mid-rank Platinum, he's at 49%. He's like really popular and he's really, really, really banned. So maybe you can argue that his win rate is fine, but I think his win rate is like a little bit undertuned. And by giving him this massive nerf, his W cooldown's going from 20 to 14 to 20 to 17, which I get that Zed's annoying, but I think they should slap some compensation buffs onto him. If they really want Zed to be more of an assassin again, and they want him to be less of like a poke mage, I think what they need to do is they need to make him, this is just my opinion right now, I think they need to make him like a little bit tankier. I think Zed's base stats, when you look at them, 32 to 111 armor, 650 HP to 2,300. Like it's a little bit, maybe like give him a little bit of like a health buff per level, maybe a little bit of an armor buff per level, not by much, but maybe by just like a little bit. I think that Zed, just simply put, is not tanky enough to really function as an assassin, especially because his combos tend to take longer. is we see quite frequently if Zed reaches like the mid game and he can't just utterly obliterate you in his opening combo, like and he can't really. That's the thing. Unless Zed does like a double shadow, double shuriken E auto, like, you know, he has to play like a mage because he just gets squished a bit too easy, right? And so we see this in his win rate. Is he annoying? Yes. Is he hard to play? Yeah, sure, I agree. It just feels like maybe like a little bit more armor, maybe a little bit more health per level. I'm not saying much, but just a little bit to try to compensate and to allow him to perform his job as an assassin. Maybe even a little bit more magic resist, right? Like his magic resist is low to try to nerf him, but maybe give him his magic resist back to being normal, right? Maybe instead of 29, push him to 32 magic resist, right? Like, do you see what I'm trying to say here? Like, maybe give him a little bit of a compensation here, because I don't think Zed should just be underpowered. Like, I think Zed's annoying. I think he's really annoying. But, like, if you're addressing what people don't like about him, then, you know, maybe you can help him a little bit. Okay. With Kai'Sa's Umbral build picking up popularity, it's proven to be a bit stronger than she already was, and she already was quite strong, tapping her down a bit as she's clearly one of the best picks, especially in Elite right now. Really, what gave that away? Was it the fact that she's been... Let's look at the pick rate by patch, okay? So, in 13.15, she had 32% pick rate. In this patch, she's got a 31% pick rate. Shockingly and amazingly, being over 30% pick rate for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 patches. So we're talking for over 2.5 months, this champion, between her ban and her pick, has been over almost 50% pick ban for 5 months now, right? It's been a while. I think you wanted to see her at Worlds, and it's pretty obvious you wanted to see her at Worlds, and it's pretty obvious you wanted to see Bel'Veth at Worlds, but it kind of sucks. Like, as a company, it sucks that you guys do this thing where you push a champion to be really, really, really overpowered just so that they show up at Worlds. So then you can have these Worlds champions that are just really overpowered, stomping on everybody. I mean, it took you guys a long time. Let's put it that way. You guys let Kai'Sa and Bel'Veth be very overpowered for a very long time just to try to force them at Worlds. Is that going to be at Worlds? Probably not. Probably not. Okay, let's be blunt. But it kind of sucks that you forced Bel'Veth, you forced Kai'Sa to be giga OP just for Worlds. Okay, Galio can go a little higher than we went last patch while keeping his losing matchups to mages intact. Okay, so when they say they want to keep his losing matchups to mages intact, but they want to buff him a little bit, they are saying they're going to keep his losing matchups to mages intact, but they'll help him out a little bit. Okay, so his W cooldown is going from 18 to 16 to 18 to 14. This means W max Galio will have a little bit easier time with mages. In addition to that, his W passive shield timer is going from 12 to 12 to 8. So W max Galio will get his shield back after 8 seconds instead of 12. Do you get that? This helps out Galio's late game, because Galio seriously has a problem with cooldowns come late game. Like, he has a serious problem with cooldowns, right? Like, his cooldowns are just too long. I mention this every time Galio is brought up, but his cooldowns are just too long, right? Now, should he be able to W into a W in his combo, kind of like how Jax can Counter-Strike Zanya's Counter-Strike? No, that would be annoying, and I don't think anyone would enjoy that. But what I'm saying is, like, maybe like his W could be like a little bit lower cooldown, and maybe it could be a little bit less impactful when you use it. Maybe, you know, maybe it could do a little bit less damage, but it has like a lower cooldown. Maybe its damage goes down like 20%, but then the cooldown goes to like 14 to 10, maybe. Because like the problem right now, and I think a lot of people have noticed this, Galio's whole shtick is he one-shots you or he doesn't do anything. As a bruiser, I do not care about Galio, because the problem is he just doesn't have the sustained damage necessary to get a kill on you. Even if he brings you down to like 20% health with this whole combo, and you're like, oh my god, that was so much damage, right? The problem is, then you just stand next to him and you heal on him and you Gore Drinker him or you Divine Sunder him, and he just flaps around like a little bird. He's like, boo, boo, boo. He just runs around and you just beat the crap out of him for 10 seconds as he waits for his abilities to come back. Jinx is being buffed again. Her HP per level is going from 100 to 105. Her passive 25% bonus attack speed on kills now stacks, which is, boy, that's not a good idea. Boy, in our anti-snowball patch, we're making a champion snowball more. Oh boy. Her ultimate cooldown is going down by 5 seconds. and then her ultimate damage is going way up. I shouldn't say way up. It's going a little bit up. So more ultimate damage on a lower cooldown, more health, and more attack speed from her passive in a combo kill. Probably, Riot, probably, here's my suggestion. Maybe I'm thinking just possibly, maybe not the best idea to make her passive stack on your anti-snowball patch, and now we're going to have a Giga Snowball AD carry. I don't know. Okay. I don't know why I went to Jinx. I just started doing things. We're gonna talk about Jinx later. I talked about Galio and then I just immediately went to Jinx. I just saw it, chat. I just saw it and I just went through it. Okay, Blighting Jewel. We nerfed Blighting Jewel post durability update to compensate for everyone having higher resists. Jewel needs to be a bit weaker to Void Staff, so it's not a god component, but doesn't need to be this weak. With World's Patch Shift, we had a significantly less chance of buffing champs who don't need additional buffs like Azir Ori, for which this buff would have relatively more impact. So they want to buff Blighted Jewel, but they don't want to buff it on World's Patch because apparently regular players are less cool than World's players. Cool. So Bladed Jewel is going from 1250 cost to 1100 cost. Void Staff's total cost is unchanged. I don't know why this was like a change that needed to happen, but cool, I guess. I don't know. Now let's go. Now let's go to patch preview part 2. Yay. Okay. 13.20 is a big patch. Patch timings. We needed to weigh up all the pros and cons of resolving some large issues that are affecting tens of millions of people every day versus pros having high quality practice for 13.20 for Worlds. Ultimately, we decided to prioritize the regular player experience, and while there's a lot of changes on paper, we felt that they are mostly number changes for the pro environment that will have some effect on practice, but overall don't feel like they make practice redundant. Okay, pros players have been whining that, like, you're changing too much. We won't be able to get practice for Worlds on live patches. Grr, right? But, like, you already have your Worlds patch, right? It's already locked into stone, right? And then they want the patches after that until Worlds comes to also not do anything so they can practice on solo queue. Riot is saying, effectively, and I think this is entirely right, so good job, Froxon. Good job for actually saying it. You said it very politely. You're a polite man. You don't want to upset anyone. But what he's basically saying is, yo, shut the fuck up. There are tens of millions of people playing this game. Okay? Shut the fuck up. They want their game to be better, so just go practice on live. It doesn't change that much. But he says it very politely. What a polite young man. I'm pretty sure he's younger than me. I'm pretty old for League. Jungle. We're trying to keep all the fun things about the role intact while focusing on trimming power and complexity from the role that hopefully junglers don't mind being trimmed. They'll still feel it to some extent, but jungle is quite an empowered role on live and we feel we need to act. We're increasing jungle monster durability by quite a bit, but also increasing jungle item damage to monsters, to reduce the amount that camps are poached, and to slow down clears a bit in the early mid-game past the first clear. The intent is for junglers to spend a bit more time farming, but not so much that they feel trapped in the jungle. We've also buffed the non-jungler starting items to give laners a bit more of an advantage against early ganks. I have gone over the jungler changes. They did talk about it in the last poach. They're just talking about it more here. So basically, junglers, well, everything what he just said. And, I mean, it's a good thing. Junglers should be slowed down. I think they should be slowed down to their first clear. I don't really care about their clears after the first clear. To be blunt, I think that jungler mid-game is fine. I think the problem is they just snowball early game so hard. Then they end up with an item lead. Then they start getting catch-up XP off kills, off minions, off the jungle. Then they start getting the same level as the laners. Then they start taking over the game. Then they start getting more kills because now they're really fed, so now they get a level advantage. Basically, jungle snowballs so hard that it just sucks for everyone who isn't a jungler. Anti-snowball. Context for snowball stuff in yesterday's post. We're trying to maintain the relative value of playing for dragons versus void monsters, but also reducing the punishment for early deaths by some amount. We're monitoring for teleport freezes actually benefiting the person who is killed and seeing how prevalent it will be. So basically what they're saying is, what they don't want is for Rift Herald to now be more powerful than Dragon. And they don't want it so that, like, if I die to you, and then I teleport back to lane at full HP and hold the wave, that could potentially value me more than you who got the kill on me. What they don't want is a situation where I kill my opponent, he teleports back to lane, holds the wave, and then he actually ends up in an advantage because he ends up level 5 to my level 4. I have a level lead, but now the lane is permanently held. Now I can't really get anything, and now I end up down XP, down items because he's holding the lane, denying me farm. They don't want that to happen. However, I do feel that some of that actually comes down to your teammates, right? Like, if I have a level lead, or sorry, if I had an item lead, then I just run up and I start pushing the wave, right? Unless their jungler comes. But doesn't that come down to your jungler? Kind of being like, hey man, my top laner got a kill, and now he's trying to push the wave. Oh no, he's being ganked. Maybe I should go up there and help, right? Like, shouldn't that be on your team? Your mid laner can roam, your jungler can roam, even your support can roam to help prevent you from just being 2v1'd out of the game. So I do think that, you know, there is something to say that maybe it could benefit the person who teleported back in. I do agree, but I also think that a lot of these situations that occur come down to your team, like, not reacting to a situation. We're also nerfing plates as they are a moderate amount of snowball in the early game. Yes, oh my god. You guys know how much I've been complaining about plates, right? Like, plates are terrible. I think nerfing it down to 125 is a good start. The problem with plates is they often come down to just a win more mechanic. My jungler ganked for me. Okay, great. Even if I don't get a kill, I get a plate. And I get the XP lead. And I get the minion kill lead. Even if we don't get a kill, you start ending up so far ahead that you can't really come back from it. How many times have I noticed that I can escape a gank, have to back. Escape a gank, have to back, right? Or I play back from a gank, right? Like, they're ganking me, so I run behind my turret. I go to my tier 2 turret, right? I start playing safe. My opponents get an XP lead because my minions are dying in a turret. They get a gold lead because they're killing minions, they're killing the play. Like, even if you don't die, there are so many situations right now where, like, just getting plates and just having the jungler can totally win top lane. And I'm sure you guys have noticed that too. It's kind of ridiculous just how much lead you can get in the game right now off doing basically the bare minimum. Finally, runes are having more of their power put into bases rather than ratios, so they are more consistent and not double snowballing when players get ahead. I agree with this. I think Keystones have been doing too much damage to begin with, and I think that getting level lead and getting item lead gives you too much power to begin with. I also think that damage items are just too valuable right now because, particularly because Keystone scaling just kind of powers up the amount of scaling that champions get that they were never intended to get. I think Conqueror definitely and Lethal Temple 100% were also giving champions a lot of power that realistically they weren't supposed to be having. To give you an example, let's talk about Aatrox. Aatrox has really high AD ratios, and he's got a damage multiplier in his ultimate. So how many times have we seen Aatrox, like, oh yeah, he does decent damage, but then once he procs up Conqueror, and if he's in an ultimate, like, sure, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that 30-40 damage from Conqueror, I think it's 30-40. I think it's like 30, right? I mean, it got nerfed, and then it got buffed, and then it got nerfed, and then it got buffed. I think it's 30-40. It's somewhere around there. That amount of damage at either rate, once you have that full stacked up Conqueror, contributes a lot of damage that Aatrox isn't really balanced around having. This means that damage creep tends to be way higher. So basically, by nerfing all the runes in the game, or at the very least nerfing all the keystones in the game, they are nerfing your ability to snowball, which is good. And in addition to nerfing your ability to snowball, they're nerfing your ability to deal damage even regularly, which is good. Less damage in the game is good. Even if it doesn't feel like it, having like 50 less damage from one person, 50 less damage from another person, 50 less damage from another person, that means even 3 people doing 150 less damage makes it so you could actually maybe survive a focus fire in a team fight a little bit easier. It means champions like Zyra, it means champions like Xerath can't reach a point where by not really hitting much, they're just getting a lot of damage. I think we've noticed this in the past, definitely with Zyra, where she uses her Q, you dodge it. She uses her root, you dodge it. A plant hits you once. Ooh, that procs Landry's. Ooh, that procs Arcane Comet. Ooh, that procs Scorch. And all of a sudden you're down like 200 HP. And you're sitting there like, well, wait, I dodged everything. Why did I just lose 10% of my health? And then she does it again, and you dodge everything, and she hits you with them again, and you're sitting there like, well, wait, what? Wait, what? Okay, I'm on the first one accidentally. Melio. We nerfed Melio as he was driving a lot of Enchanter strength earlier in the season. We think we can give him a buff that aims to bolster his Enchanter options. Okay. So Milo got nerfed because he was giga overpowered. They're now buffing him a little bit because it was kind of clear that he was just massively underpowered. I think they were afraid to buff him on the Worlds patch because he was so dominant at Worlds so dominant in pro play for such a long time. Melio is an anti-engage champion who really helps to stop people from engaging. Now, he's very frustrating if you're playing a bruiser, but that's kind of his job, right? So, like, I need to try to be impartial here. His whole job is being an anti-melee pick. He doesn't tend to do that well against range, but against dive comps, against things like Nautilus, he tries to be the anti-Nautilus pick, right? Where if you're playing, you know, these hard engaged champions like Leona, like Pike, like Nautilus, that he can kind of like, you know, be like, no. So, his passive now procs Chemtech Putrefier. So if an ally procs his passive, he gets the Chemtech Putrefier healing reduction. His E cooldown, that's his shield, is being reduced. Instead of 18 to 14, 17 to 13. His E shield is going up instead of 60 to 160, 60 to 180. So his shield will have less cooldown, and it will have more shielding value. Then his ultimate is gaining more AP ratio. So just a little bit of a bump for Melio. I think the last time I looked at Melio, he was so goddamn underpowered that, like, he's not like crazy underpowered anymore because they have been buffing him recently. So he's not like, oh my god, underpowered, but like he's still not doing great. I'm not saying like, oh, we need to buff him to the top, right? Like, I think Melio is surprisingly a little bit harder to use than most people think, because timing your Q to knock people away is something that a lot of people don't know. I also see a lot of Melio players miss their Q. I also don't see a lot of Melio players like tapping their cleanse, like you know, right as someone gets stunned, they're like, boom, cleanse, right? Like, Nautilus ult hits you, he's like, boom, cleanse, Q's away Nautilus. Nautilus' entire engage is done, shields his ally again, right? Like, I think good Melio players are way better than bad Melio players. I think Melio would be fine at like a 49% win rate. To be honest, I think they would actually still be fine for the champion. Morgana is getting way... Oh, I can't even talk about Morgana yet. Let's talk about other things. Bel'Veth. These are changes to help to get her back out of fighter-oriented builds and into more squishy builds. Also moving some of her power curve to be late game-oriented. Once again, Bel'Veth is just crazy goddamn overpowered. The changes they're doing here... Her damage can now crit on her E. Great. Do they think that they're trying to push her into being like a crit champion? Maybe. I don't know. I think most people are still just going to go Kraken Slayer into Stride Breaker. Kraken Slayer does so much unnatural damage that it just kind of breaks the game. Trying to push Kai'Sa's early weaknesses a bit more by opening up her early matchup some. She is a bit more blind pickable than we want long term, and we plan to continue to sharpen her matchups a bit. Okay, I don't think that that's a good thing. I don't know why Riot is obsessed with counter picks, with matchups. Why are they so obsessed with that? I do not agree that it's a good thing. At either rate, Kai'Sa's armor is going from 28 to 25, 3 less armor. That's good all game. It makes her squishier all game. I just do not think at all that Kai'Sa needs to be counterpickable. I don't think any champion needs to be counterpickable. They should be trying to soften matchups, not sharpen them. They're going in the opposite direction. They're going in a bad direction. The only reason to have counterpicks is to make pro play more interesting. By someone picks Kai'Sa and then you pick Caitlyn and you're like, oh, I counterpicked. Oh, Caitlyn is now in the meta. And everyone goes, oh my god, I haven't seen Caitlyn in years. I love Caitlyn. That's the only reason to do that. I do not think counterpicks are good for solo queue. They are not good for the game. They require... Here's the problem. Jungle has to be OP so long as counterpicks are so powerful. Because the only thing that can stop counterpicks is, you guessed it, the jungler. Sometimes mid lane roam, sometimes support roam, sometimes top lane teleports, but like realistically, it all relies on the jungler, right? So it's not a good thing to say, we don't want the jungler to be overpowered, but then turn around and say, but also we need the jungler to be overpowered, otherwise the game can end at champion select. Bad, Riot. If I had a newspaper, it would be bad, Riot. Bad, Riot. Bad. Okay. Quinn, a reduction in some of her early game durability and ability to kite, to allow champions to get on her early with all-in power when she's harassing. Quinn's base health is being reduced by about 40. Her movement speed is also being reduced by 5, but her damage growth is being increased by a little bit. The problem with Quinn is she's not popular because no one wants to play her, but Riot continuously does this weird thing where they buff Quinn until she's like giga overpowered. We can see this with Akshan too. They typically buff these champions until they're giga overpowered, and then they just like never touch them again. And they're not giga overpowered because they're like counter picks. Like Poppy is a counter pick. I'm okay with Poppy being high win rate, right? But like when we have Quinn who's picked more than Poppy with the same win rate while not even getting good matchups, right? That's a bit of a problem, in my opinion. Poppy is strong because she can counter some champions. And Quinn is strong because she counters basically every champion, except seemingly Akshan, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Akshan and Quinn are just massively overpowered and just destroy every melee. It is not fun. And you can say, oh, but their pick rate is low. I don't care about their pick rate, okay? Because sure, Quinn only has a 2.8%. Sure, Akshan only has a 0.8%. Okay, sure. Let's look at some other champions up here. Tryndamere is only 4.4%. Sure, Rengar is only 1%. Sure, Malphite is only 6.8%. Sure, Vayne is only 1.4%. Right? But the thing is, like when you start adding up all these ridiculously unfun champions, let's add Illaoi in here. Let's add Heimer in here. Once you start adding up all these ridiculously unfun champions, and I'm not even including the champions that are like annoying but beatable, right? Like Warwick is annoying, but he's not like terrible, right? Like I'd rather fight Warwick than fight like Rengar, right? But like when you start adding up all these champions that just are zero fun to fight, the pick rate starts being 10%, then 15%. And all of a sudden you start noticing that like 1 out of 5 games you're getting are just up against really annoying champions. And I'm not even talking about champions that are like overtuned, right? I'm not even talking about like these super high pick overtuned champions. Like, let me go to Emerald Plus, right? Like, I'm not even talking about like Fiora. I'm not even talking about that. So I'm talking about these champions that are just really, really, really no fun to fight. Like Jax, in my opinion, is still a bit overtuned, right? But oh my God. I'd rather fight Jax any day of the week. Give me Jax 10 games in a row. I'll enjoy fighting Jax 10 games in a row. Right? Like, once you start heading to Masters, you can see, okay, so Jax starts doing really good in the Masters, right? But, like, I would still rather fight Yone. I shit you not. I would rather fight Yone than Quinn. And I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. I beg you. Understand, some champions just aren't popular because they're not fun to play. But they're also really, really not fun to play against. So I beg you. Right, I beg you, obliterate these ranged top laners from existence. That's it. Kosante, this is a really big change list. Would check up on Freak's Kosante section in his video for more extended context. No, watch my video. It's more fun. Watch my video on Kosante. Much better video. Duskblade, Ghostblade. As mentioned Wide, I think Ghostblade is a bit weak and Duskblade a bit strong, matching the two's power level a bit better. So what they're doing here, they're nerfing Duskblade, again, 5 less ability haste, a little bit less damage, but then they are buffing Ghostblade to have more lethality on its proc by 4 to 6. So, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think Duskblade could use the ability haste nerf, but I think the damage was arguably fine. I just think the problem with Duskblade was that it just gave too much ability haste. Ghostblade, I think, is a very uninteresting item that should never be built. Sorry to say, I think Eclipse is fine. I think Duskblade is fine. If either of those two items are strong, it's like, fine. But like, in fact, to be completely honest, I think the only interesting lethality item is Eclipse. So if you want to push a lethality item, why not push Eclipse, right? Like, doesn't that seem like the fine one? Like, push Eclipse to 20 ability haste. Then push Ghostblade and Duskblade down to 15. Then Eclipse can be the Bruiser Assassin hybrid item, right? Like, if make Eclipse the item that, like, if assassins want to build like bruisers, or if bruisers want to build with assassins, you've got like peanut butter in my jelly, right? You got Eclipse. It's like the middleman. It's like the middle ground. A sort of tanky but kind of, mostly damaging assassin item, right? Like, doesn't that seem like the good one? Ghostblade is just, I want to deal damage. Grrr. Duskblade is just, I want to deal lots of damage. Like, they're just not interesting items. Lord Dominus Gardens is receiving a significant bug fix to its damage calculation and receiving a nerf to compensate. Okay, so the thing about Lord Dominus Regards, I think Riot wants to nerf this item, but they just don't have the balls to do it. Now properly applies damage dealt into shields. Yeah, I mean, that's like a little bit of a buff, I guess. But then they're nerfing its damage from 25% damage amp to 22%. I think they should have taken this time to nerf it a bit further. I think now that they have an excuse to be nerfing the item, they should have gone further. Should have been maximum damage amp from 25% to 20%. Hell, bring it to 15%. Lord Dominus Guards is probably the most broken item in the game right now, bar nothing. It completely imbalances the game and makes late game AD carries just kill everyone at all points in time. I do not understand why it was like quad buffed. You buffed its damage amp, you buffed its damage, you buffed its damage, then you made it affect magic damage. Like, it just got quad buffed for literally no reason, despite being one of the best items in the game. And now it just kind of breaks the game in two. You're never going to convince AD carries to build Lord Dominic's Regards when they should. If they're fighting a Mundo, Olaf, Malphite team, you know they're not building Lord Dominic's Regards. You know they're not, because they're stupid. AD carry players are stupid. I'm sorry, you're an AD carry player, you're stupid. You don't know how to build items. For some reason, every other class seems to generally be smart. I'm not saying they're all smart, right? Mages make mistakes all the time. Assassins make mistakes all the time. But like, it's really rare for me to see a mage fighting like a tank team and just decide that they're going to go with the anti-burst item, right? Like, it's really rare for me to see a Malzahar just decide, oh man, this would be a perfect game to go, I don't even know, right? Like, but all the time we'll see AD carries be like, oh man, a full tank team? Yeah, this is going to be a lethality build game. It just happens so frequently. So frequently. It's crazy. Okay, now let's go through all the changes that were mentioned. Morgana is being giga overbuffed, in my opinion. The WAP ratio is going up, that's her pool. The W monster damage is also going up because Riot cannot resist buffing junglers from one patch. It's like Riot is just sitting there, jungle. Her E cooldown, that's her Black Shield, is going up at the rank 1. Her R movement speed is going up, and it's in all directions. Her R stun duration is going up because there's so much lethality in this game right now that I think buffing stun duration is a really good idea. I think buffing stuns every single patch without fail has led to many good things happening for League of Legends. We're literally in a world where bruisers need to have 5,000 health with like a 1,500 strength shield just to survive burst. And Riot is still sitting here being like, but what if there was even more stuns in the game? Morgana's R damage is going up and its AP ratio is going up. Wow, good job, Riot. Ziggs's Q radius is going up. Now, to my knowledge, what Riot is actually doing here is yeah, so basically, Ziggs has a collision radius, and then it has an effect radius. Meaning when it blows up, it hits 240 around it, but it will only detect if you're around it on the bounces at 150. They're buffing that to be 180. So it will still explode at 240, but it will only detect you at 180. So if he Qs into a minion wave, it will blow up slightly more and hit you from further away. But if he just Qs you in the middle of the lane, you'll still have a little bit more leeway in being detected by it. Now, I don't know why Ziggs needs to be buffed. He seems to be picked semi-regularly in bot lane. And you have to remember, bot laners are absolute morons. Bot laners are absolute morons who don't know how to play the game. So using a skill shot champion like Ziggs seems a bit beyond their technical level, right? Rakshan is being nerfed. His Q bonus movement speed is going from 40% flat to 20 to 40%. So he has less movement speed early game. Who knew the champion who does like 90 damage per auto early game might have too much movement speed when he's also... What is Rakshan? He's tanky early game and gets a lot of movement speed and is supremely high damaging. I don't know, Ryan. It seems like a bit much. Were there any other changes here that we needed to go over? I think that was it for everything. So I think that's the entire patch. Wow, we got out of this in under an hour. I really didn't think I was going to do that. I really didn't think we were getting out of this in under an hour. So there we go. That's a patch preview for 13.20. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you to all my YouTube members, my Kick subscribers, my Patreon subscribers. Thank you all. If you want to support Hashinshin, join my Patreon. Thank you everybody. And as always, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.